All right, so here is some great news. North Carolina judge strikes down the state's abortion ban, which is awesome to hear, but let's see what the specifics of that are, because who knows what else he might have said. A state judge struck down North Dakota's ban on abortion Thursday, saying that the state constitution creates a fundamental right to access abortion before a fetus is viable. All right, which is good. It's good that the Constitution does say that, because I just never understood what the pearl clutching is if the abortion is done before viability. I mean, obviously there are horrible circumstances which forces an abortion after viability, but before viability, what is the issue? I mean, it is the woman's body. They have something growing in there. Their first issue should be, or if you're a woman who is willing to give your life to having a child, then fine. I'm not going to say you shouldn't do that, or it's up to you. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But most women, especially before viability, they want to have the ability to say, yeah, this is a problem. And despite what some people say, it's a problem with either the health of the mother, or they might be afraid of whatever genetic markers they might give to the fetus. There's all sorts of reasons. There could be medical, it could be financial. There's all sorts of reasons why someone chooses abortion before viability. After viability, there's only one reason. Well, technically two, but it always revolves around health. But whether it's the health of the fetus, I don't know of many people who would want to give birth. There are some, and knowing full well that the baby will live, I don't know, a few minutes. And if that's how you want to do it, go for it. Again, not my position to judge, and you should do the same damn thing for others. I mean, I'm not going to criticize people for whether they choose one procedure or another. Not my place to say, because I don't know the situation. So I'm not going to. I know I can only imagine how I would react in certain situations. But again, how I react and how others react, completely different. So again, not making any judgments. All right. In his ruling, State District Judge Bruce Romanek also said that the law violates the state constitution because it is too vague. Under the judge's order, abortion would be legal in North Dakota, but the state currently has no clinics performing them, and GOP State Attorney General Drew Wrigley promised to appeal the decision. Okay, obviously they don't have any clinics performing abortion because they passed a ban. Of course, doctors aren't going to want to risk it, even though it must kill them, knowing that they're abandoning women who actually need these procedures simply because of it. But at the same time, it's completely understandable. And it doesn't surprise me that the Attorney General is appealing. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But, yeah. All right, let's continue. The state's only abortion provider had been the Red River Women's Clinic in Fargo, but it moved a few miles to Moorhead, Minnesota in 2022 after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and allowed states to ban abortion. Director Tammy Kronenaker said there are no plans to reopen a clinic in North Dakota, but Thursday's decision gives us hope. We feel like the court heard our concerns and the physicians in North Dakota's concerns about a law that we felt went too far, she said. But Wrigley said in a statement that the judge's decision contained flaws in his analysis. Of course. Judge Romanik's opinion inappropriately casts aside the law crafted by the legislative branch of our government and ignores the applicable and controllable case law previously announced by the North Dakota Supreme Court, he said. So basically he's saying, oh, but everybody else did unconstitutional things, so you should allow that too. Uh-huh. Right. Okay. Romanik was ruling on the state's request to dismiss a 2022 lawsuit filed by the Red River Clinic. After the clinic's move, the state argued that a trial wouldn't make a difference. The judge had canceled a trial set for August. But Romanik decided how North Dakota Constitution guarantees inalienable rights, including life and liberty. So it doesn't specifically talk about abortion, but he's smart enough to understand what that means. Cool. The abortion statutes at issue in this case infringe on a woman's fundamental right to procreative autonomy and are not narrowly tailored to promote women's health or to protect unborn human life, Romanik wrote in his 24-page order. The law as currently drafted takes away a woman's liberty and her right to pursue and obtain safety and happiness. Now, that is something that, ironically, the pro-forced birthers seem to forget. They're always talking about, oh, think about the poor little fetus, think about the fetus, as if the actual woman's life means absolutely nothing to them. But what about the fact that the fetus isn't going to survive? Nobody thinks about that. They just assume, like I had a commenter say, oh, babies are when I mentioned sepsis, she seemed to think I was talking about the baby. That is how blocked off her mind is from accepting that pregnancies can be a danger to the mother, because it didn't even occur to this person that I was talking about the mother. But anyway, even if I wasn't, this idea that no matter what medical complications, that the baby is going to miraculously survive and be okay, I don't know what world you live in. I really do not know what world you live in that you think that nothing bad ever happens to children. May I point you to the nearest children's hospital and tell me how, just because they're resilient, how bad things happen to these children. I just do not understand where this is coming from. But anyway, so it's good to see that this judge accepted that we're not just talking about women. We are talking about the unborn child. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Anyway, the abortion statutes at issue in this... Oh, I read that already. Never mind. Mitra Mehid... Oh, Lord. Medizadeh. I think I got that right. Staff attorney at the Center for Reproductive Rights, which supports abortion rights and challenges state bans, said the ruling means it is now much safer to be pregnant in North Dakota, but she said clinics can take years to open. And since the Attorney General plans on appealing, obviously that's why it probably takes years, because they have to wait till the appeals have run their course and they feel safe to actually open. So just because this judge ruled that abortions are legal, that doesn't mean that it's going to start happening tomorrow. The destructive impacts of abortion bans are felt long after they are struck down, she said. North Dakota elects both its Supreme Court justices and District Court justices, but those contests are nonpartisan. Let's face it, I'm in Wisconsin, it's the same deal. They are very much partisan, even though technically next to the names it has NP for nonpartisan, or I think it's nonpartisan. That does not mean that there aren't conservatives who are campaigning for one judge and Democrats who are campaigning for another. That's just the way it is, because as much as people would like to say that judges shouldn't campaign on court cases that could potentially come in front of the court, they have to campaign on something. Because most people don't know who these judges are. So the only way to actually know who to vote for is to put your values out there, put your opinions out there. Anyway, Romanek was first elected a judge in 2000 and has been reelected every 6 years since, most recently in 2018. Before serving as a judge, he was an assistant state's attorney in Burleigh County, home to the state capital of Bismarck. The judge acknowledged in his ruling that in the past, North Dakota courts had previously relied on federal court precedents on abortion, but said those state precedents had been upended by the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark 2022 abortion decision. Romanek said he'd been left with relatively no idea how the North Dakota Supreme Court would address the issue, and so his ruling was his best effort to apply the law as written to the issue presented, while protecting the fundamental rights of the state's residents. Pregnant women in North Dakota have a fundamental right to choose abortion before viability exists under the enumerated and unenumerated interests provided by the North Dakota Constitution, the judge wrote. Okay. All right. I thought there was something else. Like I said, it's amazing to me how many of these people seem to treat the woman who got pregnant as this evil being, that they are so clinging to this idea that this is just a woman who uses abortion as birth control, and that these are promiscuous women or whatever. And no matter how many times you say that, bring up court cases of women who are married, have families, but need an abortion for some reason, how they just completely go, la, 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 I can't hear you, because they just can't accept that their idea of the women who get abortions might be wrong. I mean, are there single women out there who get abortions? Absolutely. Are they necessarily medical? Not necessarily. They could be that they just can't financially support a pregnancy. Because remember, pregnancies are not free. You have to get health care. You have to give birth. These are not free services. So even if you're arguing, well, you can just put the baby up for adoption because you can't afford them, blah, blah, blah. You have to get to that point. So even if this is a single woman, even if it's someone who's promiscuous, they should be able to have that choice of whether they can afford to even go through a pregnancy. They should not be told whether they can afford something or not. So, and no, it's not used as a birth control. I mean, maybe there are some people who do it because, there are assholes in every walk of life, but that doesn't mean that it's close to a majority. All right. In many respects, Romanik's order mirrors one from the Kansas Supreme Court in 2019, declaring access to abortion a fundamental right under similar provisions in that state's constitution, though the Kansas court did not limit its ruling to before a fetus is viable. Voters in Kansas affirmed that position in August 2022 statewide vote. And again, it makes sense that they're not limiting it to before viability because, like I said, horrible things happen. Tragic things happen that force you to have an abortion past viability. Nobody likes that. Nobody wants that situation. And to act like it's that doctors or women are gleefully rubbing their hands like a cartoon villain, waiting for the perfect time to have an abortion just so they can cause harm to a viable fetus, isn't happening. Anyway, Romanik concluded that the law is too vague because it does not set clear enough state standards for determining whether exceptions apply, leaving doctors open to being prosecuted because others disagree with their judgments, which should never be happening. The only people who should be second-guessing a doctor's opinion are other doctors, other experts in that field. They should not be getting people questioning their judgments who have no clue about medicine. Like the commenter who didn't even know what freaking sepsis is. And that I was referring to the woman. And yet they claim that abortion isn't healthcare. They don't even know what goes into the decision to have an abortion. They don't even understand the medical decision. And yet they're claiming that they know better than doctors and that doctors are super evil for even contemplating it. I mean, it's this cartoonish logic that makes me absolutely hate cults. All right. Hey, where'd I go? In 2023, North Dakota's Republican-controlled legislature revised the state's abortion laws. Well, of course they did. Making abortion legal in pregnancies caused by rape or incest, but only in the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. So they're allowing exceptions, but you should be a Nostradamus and know that you are going to be pregnant. Yeah, that makes total sense. Moving on. Under the revised law, abortion was allowed later in pregnancy only in specific medical emergencies. Which, when you get to a certain point, that is the only time those abortions happen. So, okay. Soon after that, the clinic, joined by several doctors in obstetrics, gynecology, and maternal fetal medicine, filed an amended complaint. The plaintiffs allege the abortion ban violates the state constitution because it is unconstitutionally vague about its exceptions for doctors and that its health exception is too narrow. Because again, these people who crafted the law are not doctors. They do not understand what doctors go through when they decide whether an abortion is necessary. And they don't understand that because they're not doctors. They're not medical professionals. They should have nothing to say about this. If, as a personal opinion, you say, under no circumstances would I ever have an abortion, no matter what the situation is for the fetus or for myself, fine. That is your personal decision. You do not get to tell other women how to make that choice. That the fetus's life means more than you, or that you would rather, go scorched earth and lose both your life and your fetus's life. If that's how you want to play it, fine. But you cannot tell other women that that's how they should treat their lives, because their lives are not yours. And I would bet pretty good money that if it was that situation where it's not an either or, but that both will die, I can't imagine that many, if any, woman would say, yeah, let's go through it anyway. So anyway, Romanek acknowledged that when North Dakota became a state in 1889, its founders likely would not have recognized abortion access as a right under the state constitution, but added women were not treated as full and equal citizens. And that's the other thing, and that was an argument in Wisconsin, in Arizona, that we are dealing with laws that took place while women were still considered property. Now, I know that there's plenty of men out there who would like to go back to that women are just property, that they're just, animated sex dolls, and that they're not fully viable humans in their own right. But most people don't think of women like that. So, yeah. Yeah, just because this happened at a time when women were not respected in the slightest doesn't mean that that's the standard we should go by. The judge said that in examining history and tradition, he hopes that people would learn that there was a time when we got it wrong and when women did not have a voice. This does not need to continue for all time, and the sentiments of the past alone need not rule the present for all time, he wrote. Which is true. I mean, precedent is great in the legal field. Tradition means a lot when it comes to a lot of things, but there comes a time when you have to accept that we know better now. We have more information than people did back then, and we understand how to be more compassionate to others. And we have more facts that will help with that compassion. That does not mean that just because something is tradition, that's the end all be all and we should just mindlessly follow, because That's just the way it is. I mean, that's how probably people felt about slavery. Or before women had the right to vote, or before non-property owners were allowed the right to vote, or whatever it was. There was always a time when someone felt that they were better equipped than everybody else to run things. And it's those people who felt that way are getting smaller and smaller as more and more people are allowed to have agency over their bodies, over where the direction of the country. You know, it's becoming lesser and lesser accepted that there's a magical class that should have control over everybody. And it's the same thing here. Yes, at one time, men thought that they should have dominion over women. That time is gone. There are still men out there who feel that way, and there's probably women who agree that that men should have dominion over them. Fine. If that's how you want to live, go for it. But it's no longer acceptable that all women should be forced to live like that. Nobody should be forced to live like that. If you want to, great. But nobody should be forced to do that. And I'm glad that people are understanding that tradition is good, precedent is good, until it isn't. Until it no longer meets the needs of the citizenry. So, that is the end of that article. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.